Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann, the stories about entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals and their successes and struggles along their journey. In this podcast, we also discuss the HR challenges that people face and the tips and strategies that have helped them. If you love to learn through storytelling, join us. Today, my guest is Wendy Brookhouse. She is the founder and chief strategist of Black Star Wealth. Welcome, Wendy.
Oh, Hilda, thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I was looking forward to it. I just love when we've had conversations, I love how bright and sharp and very financial your advice is. And so I am so looking forward to you sharing your journey and your wealth of knowledge. So maybe we can start by just telling us a little bit about your company.
So Black Star Wealth is not really your traditional financial planning firm. We really focus on things like what stresses you out about money and helps you try to figure out ways around that. We're also very concerned about behavioral side of things. And how do we simplify everything down to one or two numbers so that you have a single point of focus and clarity, so that there's less noise all around you, because you know now, because you have that focus, you don't have to worry about certain things. And so that's kind of I know that's a very more qualitative than quantitative answer, but really we work with a lot of business owners on making life much simpler from a money perspective.
Well, I like how you're using the word qualitative, because I'm sure many of my listeners are saying, oh God, if I have to look at these sheets that I don't understand, and I glaze over or I try to pretend like I know what she's saying.
Yeah.
So if you say qualitative, that means I can connect with you. I can understand what it means, because, I learned early that data is just a bunch of numbers. It's when you take the data and you interpret it, that becomes information that you can do something with, create an action that's either positive or negative. So it is important that people realize that data, numbers are just numbers. It's how it works for you to make you a better, more profitable or more successful in your connections with your clients or whatever. So I love how you talk about bringing it down into one simple, usable factor or advice. Can you give me a couple of examples then of the practicality that you bring, that qualitative practicality?
Well, first I'll also talk about a bit about one of the other balancing acts we have to do when we're in a planning situation is balance out today and tomorrow. So when we're talking to people about their money and everything else, there's so many pressures on their money right now. But we also have to be thinking about, well, how do we still get some money saved so that we can have a good tomorrow? And that balancing act is different for each person. But then once we've got that kind of sorted out, again, the singular focus. So I wrote a book, Hilda. It's called Burn Your Budget: How to Spend Your Way to Financial Freedom. So a little counterintuitive, eh? But it all comes down to this. Let's think about what a budget is. A budget has line items: my food, my haircuts, my clothing, my gym membership, it's got so many line items. So let's say on the smallest budget, maybe at any one time, you're trying to track down 6 things. So that's the mental math you're doing. Okay. So when we think about mental math, that is so exhausting, trying to remember where you're at. And the example I'll use for this is also life is not a straight line affair, but so many budgets are straight line. You have $100 a week for groceries, Hilda. And then there's the week that every soap runs out. I don't know why, but they do. They're in collusion. I know it. And so next thing you know, you're at the grocery store and you have to buy the shampoo and conditioner. You have to buy the dish soap and you have to buy the laundry soap and I don't know, all the soaps. And so that week, your groceries costed you $150. And you say to yourself, well, next week, I'll just spend $50. But you don't. So what we've done is we've come up with this, what we call the one number solution. And all the spending that we do that is kind of emotionally driven, that's where that lives. And so you might have a one number that says $500 a week is what you have. And that one number covers groceries, eating out, entertainment, your groceries, etc. Now, what you do is at the beginning of the week is you kind of sit down and you go, well, I'm getting a $200 haircut this week, so I guess I will not be eating out, because now you have a framework to work within. We don't actually care how much you spend on groceries or how much you eat out. We just ask you keep it within that bucket or within that one number. And so it allows you to have that discretion depending on the week and the flow of what's going on.
So a bit more fluidity rather than
Yes.
rigidity in those numbers. Cool.
Right. And so then you're not going, well, how much is left in this fund and how much is left in this? It's more, here's how much I have. And it's only 7 days, Hilda. What's beautiful is every 7 days, you get another $500,
Yay.
right? Yeah. So if something goes terribly wrong, you don't have that long to wait for more money.
I love this kind of a take on how you help people, and we'll get back to it later. I want to take us back to your career and your entrepreneurship. So tell us a little bit more about how Wendy became this very pragmatic, fluid line, simplified financial strategist.
Well, first we're going to have to talk about my purple brain, Hilda. So I think of my brain by right and left, right? We know we talk about one side is creative, one side is really numbers oriented. Mm-hmm. And I'm super balanced. So I think that helps too. And so, you know, if we say the left side's one color, red or blue, and the other side, that's where I come with purple, because I'm a kind of a blend.
And you're wearing purple today.
There, see, it's all coming together, Hilda, full circle.
And I'm letting it flow because I have a bit of purple, pink, green going on here for you.
Okay. So then we go back and we go, oh, so I did a finance degree in my undergrad. Then I did a whole bunch of marketing jobs, customer service jobs, sales jobs. And then I got into self-employment and I started doing business plans and strategic plans. I got my executive MBA, all these pieces. And what I found was a lot of people in that space, oh, I would like a business plan, and you give them a number about what that is, and it's actually a very reasonable number. They go, never mind, I can do it myself. And then so then I started thinking, I'm going to start using my finance degree. And when we look at putting a financial plan together, honestly, it's kind of the same process as one would put together consultant's report. I have a challenge. I have objectives. I have different options that I can pursue to achieve my goals. I will evaluate those options, and then I'm going to give you a recommendation, right? That's what a financial plan is. So it's the same skill set, just with different product and different other knowledge that is being filtered out at the table. One thing I've always done, Hilda, even when I was a consultant, straight through to now, it always annoyed me when I would see consultant reports that told you what to do and then did not bother to tell you how. Oh, you should probably be exporting to the US. Thank you very much. Where's my money? And you're like, well, now what? How do I do that?
Yeah.
Right? So I think the how is so important, because I think the traditional financial plan we get, for the most part, somebody just keyed a whole bunch of data into a computer, spews it out, and then you're left to figure out, wow, I have to save $1,000 a month. How am I going to do that?
I know, it's the practical aspect. I remember at one time we were changing the Employment Standards Act, and the bill was really significant of all the idiosyncrasies that were going to happen. And I would attend these sessions, and the people that were giving the sessions were telling you what was changing.
Yep.
And they never bothered to tell people how. And I thought, that's it. I'm doing my own. I'm telling you, I'm going to condense it to 10 minutes of telling you what the changes are, but I'm going to tell you how to do it and to what extent you need to do it. Because I thought, this isn't helping. This isn't
That's what
helping
people need, Hilda. It's one thing to know what, but there's a full other 50 to more % of the how.
Yeah. People need that.
Oh, knowing is only half the battle, according to G.I. Joe. So You see.
Oh, wow. You talked about the fact that you did marketing roles and consulting roles, and then you became independent. It You made it sound like it was no big deal. I did it.
Oh,
Can you kind of share from why did you bother going into becoming an independent?
well,
Was there
it's
a
interesting, Hilda. It was more I was dragged kicking and screaming. Okay. So I had never envisioned myself as self-employed. And I was working at an internet company and I had a little side hustle doing some consulting. And then, do we remember when the tech crash happened in 2001, 2002?
Mhm.
Yes. So all of a sudden, that became my job. And that's kind of how it happened. And over time, some people will relate to this, is I became unemployable because I am too used to doing my own thing now. So that happened a long time ago. And so, there's beauty in that because I can choose how to help my clients. I can choose all kinds of things about the way I do my work and the way I interact because it's all up to me. There's no one telling me you should do this.
Did you find that you had that kind of instinctively at a younger age, and then you just finally said, no, I really want to march more to my own tune and help people and not follow some kind of pattern that
No, it was more from having to go and be my own boss for a period of time and then realizing I like this, I can't go back. So it
okay.
wasn't, I know I needed to do this. It was more of a, oh, I'm here now, whether I want to be or not. And here's why I like it.
So you said, I like this. I think we'll just
Yeah,
keep it this
yeah.
okay. So you started your when you started your business, it kind of evolved. Did you deliberately one day say, okay, I'm not going back, and then start to formalize things? Or
Mm,
was it a slow evolution to become more of a business minded entrepreneur?
I think I always had it in me. I just didn't know that I did. So
Okay.
it just became, it kind of got excavated through that process. Because, I don't think I applied for too
Excavated. I
many.
like that word, excavated. Oh, there it is.
It was deep down. Here you go. And as a result of that, I don't think I ever seriously considered going back really after a period of time, especially once I started in the financial services side of the business. And I realized that my unique methodologies could really change people's lives. Like the transformations I was able to do, they become very addictive. Um, and and you don't feel like you can do that when you're constrained by a box.
Okay, so we've already talked about that one number solution, and you said your method's transformational. Let's dive a little bit deeper. What does that mean? Because you sound like you have the solution for many of us who are thinking, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make this happen?
Absolutely. Well, I think also, so I'm going to think about a set of clients that I have, and it's probably 6, 7 years ago that we worked together. They came into my office and they were just stressed out. They had their idea of money success was if they had room on their line of credit. They had a ton of debt. They had a lot of things on the go. So, and they just couldn't see their way clear anymore, right? So, our process, we analyzed their spending. We showed them some of the places that they could make some changes. We gave them their one number. And inside of that whole plan, because they only have to focus on the one number, but it also included here's how you're going to pay down your debt. Here's how you're going to save for the future. Here's how you're going to build your safety net. And here's your spending plan. So all those pieces all worked so closely together so that, yes, we put all those things into place, but they worked in the background and they just focused on staying within that number. And what happened in the 1 year that we worked together was, well, first off, they got 2 vacations that year that they hadn't been on in forever. They had additional life insurance to make sure that they were more than well covered if something happened. And they started investing again.
Well,
What was interesting is within 1 year, we changed their net worth by over $185,000. And they did not feel deprived. They felt in control and they were different people, Hilda, because that stress had melted away. They
yeah,
knew
yeah.
they had it now. The money wasn't controlling them, they were controlling it.
Okay. You know, I want to make it clear. You deal with both entrepreneurs and non like
Entrepreneurs.
business.
Yeah, we have programs for kind of three different stages. So we have the stage where people are, more getting going, accumulating money. So this could be, your late 20s to your 40s or 50s. This is where there's a lot of expenses, but we need to start saving. We need to make sure you're covered. So that's both. Most of the time we do the one number solution there. And then what we do past that is we have this program called Retire on Fire. And what we do then is we figure out, listen, based on all your planning, let's look at your spending today. And then let's look at how that might change when you have life after work. And Hilda, I use Retire on Fire in the name, but honestly, in today's world, so many people are just slowing down or maybe changing how they work or whatever. They may not be doing this full hard stop. And some people cannot and can't even fathom the idea of a full hard stop. So, but giving them the comfort to know they can. So in there, we figure out what is the actual cost of their life after work on an after-tax basis. Because if there's one thing that you want to get me on a rant on, tell me that you need 60% of your pre-retirement income in retirement, and I will get very, very upset and rant. Because I've had plans that took over 100%. It's so different depending on what
Gotcha.
people are trying to
Gotcha.
do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are I'll call frugal, and other people have dreams and they want to spend almost as much, if not more, of what they had. For sure.
Yeah, or maybe their expenses. Maybe they've already sold their property, so they have rent. So it's not like the mortgage is paid off and now they have, you know what I mean? But the money, the capital from selling the property has now been allocated to help fund an income. But because they're renting, it's a different story. So it can be very different for each person. And so using a rule of thumb in that situation, I find can be quite disservicing.
You've talked about some of those key moments that have really helped your company be successful. What would you share with the listeners and the audience? What it is that might have been a struggle for you? Because I'm sure they'd love your wisdom on how you got out of that struggle.
Oh, for sure. Well, one of the big ones is that there was a fear of success for a number of years when I started. And I think a lot of it had to do with the work it required every time I got a new client of the things that I wasn't necessarily, they didn't bring me joy. So, Hilda, filling out tons of paperwork does not bring me joy. Yet, if I bring a new client on and we're starting to do implementations and stuff, there might be 4 to 5 hours of paperwork just to get everything set up and sorted and organized. Not my best place. So once I had brought in more on my team for people to take some of those non-joyous tasks, but brought them joy away from me, was very, very helpful, and made it more successful. And the other thing I'll say too is just the way I entered the business, because I came in as an independent at the start. I never really had, I didn't come in, like there's these things we call the captive shops, like the London Lifes, the Investors Groups, the Sun Lifes. They bring people in, they train them, they have this whole system, they kind of teach them. And I didn't go in that way. So I oftentimes I feel like I was fighting my way out of a wet paper bag because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it took me some time to set up my networks, to know where the good resources were and all that type of stuff, so that I could feel really confident. Because one of my philosophies is I don't need to know all the answers, but I need to know a good set of questions and go and know where the answers are.
And that's what a true leader does. You don't have to be an expert in everything. You need to know, you need to learn and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a key. And I find it's very interesting when younger people starting out want to be leaders, and then their leaders ask them questions. They sort of say, well, what kind of leader are you? You don't even know how to do what I do. But that's not the point. The point is that they might have knew what you needed, what you're doing now 10 years ago, but that technology's gone.
Yeah.
But what they need to know is appreciate that you are doing an excellent job with the the information and the knowledge expertise
Yeah.
you have, but their expertise is to bring it all together, to make it run smoothly, to ensure that you're motivated and productive, and that the team functions. That's their role. It's not to be your expert supervising your expertise. No,
Absolutely.
that's not it.
And one of the things too is, my third product is the Total Wealth Blueprint, and it's all about helping entrepreneurs. And we help them with their 5 numbers, meaning their 1 number solution. How much does their life cost? What do they need to do in their business to make that happen? What is their shock proof number? I mean, we've been through some pretty nasty shocks over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Have we built up enough reserves, access to capital, and all that type of stuff so that we can weather the storms? And then the final thing is, do we know when enough is enough, right? What is the number that means that we can actually work because we want to, not because we have to pay a bill? So those are the numbers we help those entrepreneurs figure out and then show them how to get there.
So the last one means you're still working, but you're working for the love of it. Right?
Yeah, you have
I thought it might have meant you're ready to retire. So how do you go?
Oh, you could, but it means that at any point along the way, you know that you are in the driver's seat to say, yeah, I'm done.
So here's a question that I'm sure many entrepreneurs ask: is that, okay, your cash flow is so much, and you know you need to spend money to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, let's say I know that in order to increase my sales, I probably need to bring on a marketing campaign. How do I know? Like, there's that fear of, what if I pick the wrong marketing person and I blow that $5,000 and I don't even make any money for it, or I lose it? So it's the biggest mistake of my life. So I think sometimes this kind of decision can create indecision and paralysis almost, because you're afraid of maybe potential success, but you don't want to buy something that's gonna explode.
Well, it's like anything else. You can't. There's no golden ticket that says this is a guaranteed solution. Now, it might say so on Facebook or other places, but it's not.
Money back guarantee.
Right. This is something that you have to have, a filter to evaluate your opportunities through. What must be true for you to pursue that opportunity? And the second thing is doing your due diligence as much as you can on that opportunity, and then you just have to go for it, right? This is that risk continuum that as entrepreneurs we're on. And I like to frame things up as experiments. I like to frame things up as lessons and not use the word failure. Like, honestly, Hilda, I failed a lot, if we were going to use that terms, but I learned way more from those mistakes or those things that didn't work than sometimes from the things that did work. And I just have to make sure that I take the time to reflect, build in a new part of my system so that those mistakes aren't done again. And the other thing I do is I share very freely, because part of me is like, is it really a mistake if I save someone else from making it?
Yeah. And that's why I do this podcast, because I think by sharing the journeys of my guests, you may learn something that helps you, or you may say, I don't feel alone anymore, or I don't feel embarrassed because it happened to somebody else. I don't have to hide that shame. I was talking to one of my clients today, and he's a very decisive person. He is very decisive. And he said, I had to learn, because people want you to be a leader. They want you to make a decision, because no decision is paralyzing for the whole organization. And he says, I do my homework, I figure out what I need to do, and I make the best decision I can with the knowledge that I have at the time. And I mean, that's the best you can do. You can't spend so much time trying to find the information and make a decision, because you still may have the same outcome. There may be incremental gains for the extra time taken and to do that. So
it's kind of like going from SPF 45 to 90. There's not a whole lot of extra sun protection.
And yet it costs you 5 times as much, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, like you said, incremental. The other thing I'll say is, I don't care what you're doing, read the bloody contract. Make sure you've read it. Make sure you understand what the implications are.
I,
And
I
there's
used
my
to
rant.
read
I did another rant.
I used to read our contracts really well, and people they would drive people nuts, like
Yes.
not the client, but the supplier and stuff, because I would read it, but it does make sense. Um, any surprises or hiccups along your journey?
I think that the surprises are that sometimes I feel like I need to partner or work with others on certain aspects or that's happened at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look back and it was within me the whole time, Hilda. And so there's this comfort if you are sharing parts of your journey, but to be super careful about why. What is the genesis of that? Is it because you're afraid of something or you don't have confidence in yourself? Or are they truly bringing something to the table that you don't already have? That was my biggest surprise was, those types of things. And never make a decision when you're tired.
I did a keynote yesterday or earlier in the week, and my closing slide was from The Wizard of Oz when Glinda says to Dorothy, I'm paraphrasing now because I don't have my slide in front of me. You had it within you all the time.
That's
You
right.
just needed to learn it.
Yes.
Right? And when you said that, it's giving me goosebumps right now. So I guess it's validating that sometimes you need to reflect and you need to have confidence in yourself that you have
Yes.
the answer, and
Yeah.
that aligning with somebody else may not be the right thing. But
Yeah.
it may give you peace and comfort, but maybe you had it in you, or maybe you had to learn it in your own special way and put your own special mark on it.
And that's not to say I'm not a true believer in collaborations. I'm just saying is making sure that it comes from the right place.
Exactly. So one of the things, I'm an HR specialist and I support healthy work cultures. One of the things I then like to ask my guests is what is maybe one or two of the top headaches or success stories you can choose that have made a difference in either your career or your entrepreneurial, your business.
From an HR perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a funny story. So we were hiring a receptionist / assistant, and we had gone through a couple, and we were using a profile assessment tool. And we had the guy come in, and then we're out hiring again. And so we've narrowed it down to this person, and we get them to do the assessment. We were talking to the guy. He goes, "Oh man, this is just like the last person." And you're like, "Oh no, oh no." We're hiring all the time the same people because they are quick on their feet. They could answer every question we threw them and they were social, but it did not mean that they were actually going to be able to do the job. So as a result, we had to recraft our entire hiring process to do more assessments right up front, as opposed to when they got, when we had down to the final one or two. And it made a big difference.
And assessments are really identifying what you truly want or need.
Yeah.
Those people who actually don't even have like interviews, like standard interviews, and then they just kind of talk off the cuff and they say, yeah, he's likable enough. And going, no. When we used to do interviews, when my husband and I had our engineering company, we had a standard set of questions that were behavioral, so we could get the stuff. And we told the people who were interviewing with us, the HR team, is that your job is to make sure you're comfortable with the technical aspects of the business. Yeah. Our job is to make sure the fit is there.
Nice.
That they're a team builder, that there's a personality, that it's going to be a good fit, So it was very interesting because we weren't the judge of the technical skills, but they would ask those kind of technical kind of questions. But you're right. Sometimes you hire people that are very much like yourself. When I was teaching in a hospital and we would do the orientation, we had 2 psychiatric floors. We could always tell which nurse was going to head nurse 1 and which nurse was going to head nurse 2 without even checking. We could tell because they tended to hire people like themselves.
Absolutely. I think back to a time I was moderating a leadership panel. Two very successful guys, they were CEOs, two successful companies, and yet they were exactly the opposite. One guy was kind of a prescriptive guy, a little bit very hands-off, no micromanaging, here's your thing, go get her done. And the other one was very consultative. You know, if you were on your interview, you might have talked to 6 people before you got hired, you know, at separate interviews. Everything was very much team, team, team. His was just get it done. Yet what it came to me is what you just said is it's not necessarily that a type of leadership is bad or different or whatever, but you need to surround yourself with the people who can work with that style.
Yes, it's all about building a healthy team that really aligns, first of all, with your mission, vision, and values.
Yes.
And that they are compatible in their work together. When you decide that you're going to take it easy more or retire, whatever you want to define that, what would you want your legacy to be?
I feel like it's a really big one that I think about sometimes, and I think it goes down to, I say I want to change 1 million lives. And how I want to do that is by reducing financial stress and anxiety. Because what I know is the voices in our heads when we are stressed or anxious about money, they're talking all the time. They're causing noise in your head, they're whatever. And what's happening is they're taking up a lot of your energy. And so if I can calm those voices, that means there's energy now to deploy to your family, to yourself, to your career, to your community. And when we think about the ripple effects of more positive energy out in the world, then that's how I can help change the world for good.
You've said it almost from the beginning, where you created that one simple solution or one simple line. That's what you want to do. You want to help ease the stress, and when you have less stress, you have more room for joy and doing the other kinds of things. So I really appreciate what you said. What's coming up next for you, Wendy?
What's coming up next? Well, we continue to add ways to make the client journey and experience of working with us more different and more rewarding and easier. So we've instituted a new type of risk tolerance, and it tells us about some of your behavioral cues that may be good or hindering you in growing your wealth. And also, that risk is actually a dynamic number, that it's not necessarily a static 85, maybe it's 75 to 86 or something like that. So that recognizing, again, that things aren't always rigid, and how do they flow? Building a client portal dashboard so that clients can store all their financial documents and control who has access to them, so that it's like a portal for all our communications in a very, very secure manner. And adding a money mindset course to our journey as well, so that any of our subconscious beliefs around money that have been in us since we were children, you can start to surface them and understand whether they're working for you still. So it's more about us making that journey fun, because finance is serious, but why can't we have fun doing it?
Yeah, sometimes people like remember their first lemonade stand, or Mark Hatchew, who sold guppies and stuff. And when you think of that innocence and money, and how we've created in our minds certain kinds of blockages. So I'm glad that you're kind of doing that. Well, thank you very much. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Hilda, Wendy Brookhouse, and they can also check out my website, blackstarwealth.com. There's all kinds of fun tools on there, assessments, things they can do to just see where they're at. And if it makes sense, book a call with me. We can talk about where you're at and if there's anything we can do to help.
Well, I've really appreciated you coming on, Wendy. You're the kind of financial strategist, I'll call it, that really helps us kind of be put more at ease. And the approach is one that helps us think about things, but in a calmer, easier, simplified way. So there's not a lot of clutter, financially creating anxiety
Mm.
for us. So thank you very much for spending time talking to me and helping our audience listeners to get a little bit more comfortable with their finances and to check you out if they're interested.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me, Hilda.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank my listeners and audience for joining us, because I love to hear people's stories. And through that, whether it's HR professionals, business leaders, or entrepreneurs, you will learn something that helps you on your journey to being just that much better at revving up your own potential. So thanks for joining us. If you like this one, give it maybe 2 thumbs up and subscribe, and then you'll learn more about different people and how they have managed their life journey. Thanks a lot. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.